Hello, Lissa DeHart here, and welcome to the coaching studio. Today, I have in the studio Miss Sophia Casey. She is an MCC with the International Coaching Federation, and I'm so happy to have you on the show, Sophia. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so excited about this conversation.
Me too. I had such a good time just when we were meeting a few months ago, and so I'm really looking forward to having more of a conversation. I was looking forward to this all day long. So I start off with really a curiosity around your own journey into coaching, and you're a pretty new MCC, as I recall. Kind of
a little fresh.
Yeah, just a little fresh. So I'd love to hear your arc of coaching. I'd love to hear more about that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy to share. So I'm new officially. I'm a newish MCC, but I consider that I've been an MCC for a lot longer before I got it. Thanks, ICF. So my journey.
Yeah, thank you.
My journey with coaching actually started when I was a public servant. So I worked for the U.S. federal government in several agencies, and I found myself doing coaching, but we didn't call it that. We didn't have the word. Coaching still fairly young, so we didn't have the word. And I was involved in a lot of mentoring programs. I served as a mentor to a lot of frontline and senior managers. So we didn't have that word. And then I was asked to create a program to support senior managers and frontline managers. And I was asked to create a mentoring program. And I'm like, oh, no. Now I know about something called coaching. So we ended up, I had a team, and we ended up creating a mentoring and coaching program. And so that really kind of spearheaded my coaching career, if you will, within the public sector. And then I had the wonderful opportunity to work with a coach. And I got introduced to this coach from my sorority sister who was working with him on a financial project. And she says, oh, you got to meet my coach. And I was like, I've been, keeping abreast of what coaching is, but I'm not sure I need, hear that? I need a coach. Imagine just wanting one. I didn't need a coach. So she asked me again, or she mentioned it again. And I was like, okay. And I was going through some transitions in my life at that time, trying to figure out whether or not I was going to retire from the federal government early or what I was going to do. And so I met with him, and I tell you, like 5 minutes into the conversation, I'm like, oh, this is coaching. Even though we defined it, this is it.
What was the difference that this is it for you?
It was literally like a light bulb just went off. And the difference was, even though, on my job, we had gone from mentoring, like 100% mentoring, to mentoring / coaching, it still wasn't defined as we define coaching, right? So there was still a lot of telling people what to do and making suggestions. But with this experience of actually having a coach, I was mesmerized by how quickly I got awareness around blind spots, and how quickly I got to actually hold up the mirror to me and see things that I hadn't really paid attention to, or just actually didn't even know existed. Mm-hmm. So I felt like working with this coach, we were able to dive deeper than I would have done on my job, as you can imagine. And I tell you, I was smitten. I was like, oh my gosh. So of course I hired him right away. And then I had the wonderful opportunity to be invited to a coach training observation to observe some other coaches in coach training. 30 minutes into, I think it was like a 2-hour seminar or something like that. But about 30 minutes into it, again, the bug bit me. I was like, whoa, what is this? This is still not what my experience was. And how do I have more of this? I signed up for a coach training that day and haven't looked back. So fast forward, I went through coach training, and then about a year outside of coach training, I actually applied for my PCC credential. So I never got an ACC because I'd been coaching quite a bit. So I went straight to the PCC. And then, of course, the rest is history, the road to the MCC, of course.
Well, and you speak to that road between PCC and MCC. What had to shift in the way that you were showing up with yourself and your clients between PCC and MCC?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things, and I'm so grateful to have several mentor coaches, but one of my mentor coaches suggested that I put my pen down. I was like, what? Stop taking notes. Stop taking notes. I'm like, but I can't stop taking notes. And what she didn't know, and what I did share with her, I said, I actually have a medical condition that impacts my memory. So if I don't take notes, I'm not going to remember. Like, how am I going to remember what the client is saying? So I was like, I don't know about that. I'll slow down the note taking, but no notes. Oh, no, I can't do that. And she stayed right there with me. And, we talked about what could be the value of me putting the pen down. Because what she reflected to me is that she could almost hear, not literally physically hear me taking notes, but my presence wasn't as present.
Right.
Taking notes, trying to remember what the client said. So I was like, okay, I gave in. I was like, oh, okay, uncle, I'm going to try it. And I did try it for several months. And I noticed a huge difference. A huge difference. And once I put that pen down and stopped taking so many copious notes, and every now and then I would like maybe a keyword here and there, but nothing like I was doing before.
Right.
That's when I actually passed the MCC.
And I'd really like to highlight that, because I think that you're speaking to something that a lot of coaches are. There's this sense of, I need to capture every word that the client is saying. I got to try and remember this. I don't have a medical condition that makes it so that I can't remember things that they said, but I have dyslexia. So I can get tangled up with the words, and this kind of trying to keep verbatim notes meant that then my attention was shifted to the page and not staying with the client. And I love the awareness around presence with your client, and how it's incredibly difficult for the human brain to do two things well at the same time.
Let's say that to all us multitaskers. I'm like, there's no thing.
There's this task very quickly. Yeah, no, and I think that, to your point also, there's this thing that's showing up as you're saying that, which is what is the need to know, right? Yes. And how do we kind of break that barrier of, I must understand, I must know every detail of what you're saying, because why? Like, when you think back on that, what was it that it was informing you when you knew all the things that your clients had just shared with you?
Yes, I really like you saying, not just being in the unknown and having this need to know, but also having this need to understand. Like, we must understand. I got to understand it. I got to understand it. And what, this journey, this challenge of practicing not taking notes, what it showed me very loudly was my need to take notes. Certainly, yes, because of my medical condition. Now, like, that's real. But it was also coming from performance. If I don't take these notes and I'm not able to regurgitate back what the client says, then I'm not here. I'm not really present. I'm not doing something. I'm not working.
I'm not doing something. I'm not earning my keep. Yeah.
And does a client get value out of the conversation? Absolutely. Do they still move forward? Absolutely. But I have definitely noticed the difference. Yeah. Notice the difference in the way I ask questions. Notice the difference in the way I shut up. Just be silent.
Yeah.
Be nothing.
And Sophia, it's so interesting too, because I think there is this piece around conceptions of value. Like, how do I provide value for my clients with the and this is just a hypothesis on my part, but with this sort of premise of I must give to you something. So I'll
Yeah.
regurgitate your words back to you. I will try and find the dots, connect the dots, and then hand you the polka dot cake at the end of this whole deal. Yeah.
And what that really is, I mean, I love the way that you just described it. That's still I'm gonna use my phone as a prop. That's still putting me in control as the coach. I'm gonna listen to you, take the notes, make sure I connect the dots, and then give you this pretty package back. Well, then who's in control? It's me.
Yeah.
I'm giving it back. And so, not taking notes. And of course, I did a lot of other things, in terms of like just becoming more curious. Like I played and practiced outside of coaching to get curious about things, listening to my almost 16-year-old talk about this video game for the 15,000th time, but listening from a place of curiosity. Like I just started to play with curiosity and like, oh, wow, I'm not really being curious. That's not what I'm doing. I am listening for answers and for data. So like you said, I can put together the dots to then hand it back to the client. And I tell you, that was a big eye opener for me. Yeah.
Well, and I think it also speaks to the fact that that's the shift that many coaches have to really explore in order to be coaching in MC, and I agree with you. I don't think that just because you're an MCC makes you a great coach. And I don't know that you need to be an MCC in order to be a great coach, right? But there is a degree of depth of partnership. And I heard you say this, who's in control? And if our belief is on some deep level, you are whole, capable, resourceful, creative. I believe that you have the capacity. If I really believe that, who needs to be empowered, right? And how do we then create that scenario and that conversation in which somebody else becomes the person who's empowered? And I love that in what you're talking about. It's just so crucial, I think. How do you move into that though? I mean, I hear you're playing with it and you're playing with it with your son, but putting an awareness, like I understand that now, into applicable practice on a regular basis, what allowed you to do that?
Well, a big part of it, of course, is my my ontological training. My ontological coach training is a huge part of the way I show up in coaching. But also, besides the playing, it's just accepting every day, every coaching session, accepting I know nothing. That was such a blow. It was such a blow, Lisa. We have all these acronyms behind our names, right? And we're proud of it. We're proud of all those certifications and all those degrees and all of that. And I'm not suggesting that, PCC coaches throw that away in order to move towards MCC level coaching. I'm just suggesting that they put it in their toolbox so they know they have it. They can tap into that. But this playing field that we're on called MCC, you actually don't need any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is. I mean, it's sort of interesting. So I was watching, I don't know, YouTube probably, and they were talking about this a documentary that's coming up with Joanne Woodward and Paul Newman. And there was a quote that Joanne Woodward had said. She says, "There's my ego and there's your ego. And then there's our ego. And if we're working in service of our ego, there's nothing we can't do." And in a way, I think it isn't that the coach should be ego-less, like no ego. But to your point, how do we show up as more of a clean slate in service of the client's ego and the our ego, the co-created ego, right?
That's it. What could I do? What could you do to keep practicing co-creation? Like we can start there. Not even before we even get to the coaching session. How do I create co-creation in my life?
Yeah.
Being separate and alone if it's going to be done, I got to do it myself, right? I mean, think about it, even in our personal lives. How often do we reach out for support? How often do we reach out and say, hey, will you just get on a brainstorming call with me? You know, I know this is my task or my project or my program, but I want to co-create this. And I'm a big proponent of co-creation and collaboration. And I'm grateful that I have coaching besties who are too. But I would encourage coaches to practice that.
Yeah.
In all aspects of your life.
Yeah. Well, and I absolutely 100% agree with you, because I think there is, you know, this, I don't know whether it's a Western cultural idea of I must do this alone, or it's a control issue, because I think sometimes it's also a, like, I'll do it right, and I don't trust anybody else to do it as right as I would do it. So there's that ego piece too, right? Of I have to do it myself, and I'm the only one who can do it right. But wow, what opens up when you start to collaborate with other people?
I mean, we're doing it right now, right? Just to have this conversation. I'm like, my ideas are like bing, 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 bing in my head. Just from this conversation, we're co-creating learning right now. And, you know, I would say a big part of it also is to pay more attention to the being. You know, when we get ready to apply for those credentials, we're all in the doing, right? I'm a queen of doing.
Well, and there are things that need to be done, like you need recordings and you need your coaching.
Stuff. Yeah. Absolutely. So you got to do some shizzle. Yes, you do. There's some shizzle to be done. And what could be the benefit and the value of, yes, you paying attention to all the things that you have to do on that checklist? Who do you need to be in order to apply for the MCC? Yeah. Who do you need to be in order to step fully into MCC? Who do you need to be at the PCC level to have the most impact, not just on your clients, but on yourself? Who do you need to be? Who do you want to be? And it's like that just kind of takes the doing and just sits it aside for a moment. And like, whoa, now I have a whole other playground to look at. Yeah. Like, who do I need to be? Who do I want to be? I just want to be an MCC. You know, if you asked me that a few years ago, I just want to be an MCC. What do you mean? Who do I want to be? Yeah. Yeah.
And what, I mean, there is that inquiry around who do you want to be and how are you being, and how does that align with what you say is important to you? How did you shift from, I just want to be an MCC, to actually being a person in co-creative partnership with another person?
You know, I started to think about what legacy do I want to leave? You know, I get emotional every time I say this or think about it. What legacy do I want to leave for our son? What legacy do I want to leave for BIPOC coaches? What legacy do I want to leave for women? You know, what legacy do I want to leave for coaches? And when I think about it that way, it's deeper than what's my why.
Yes.
So much deeper than what's my why. I'm talking about, here you are, it's your last day on this earth. What do you want your legacy to be? And so I do think about that, and I ask myself that. And sometimes it's hard to ask myself that question. But when I'm brave enough to ask myself, inside of that lies so many answers, and inside of that lies who I need to be in order to create what I want to create on this planet. It's right there inside of that question. What legacy do I want to leave? A legacy of a planet that's better because I was here. Better because I was here, where people feel like they belong. People really believe like it's more than just a cliche, like, oh, I want my dreams to come true. When I make my dreams come true, like it's deeper than that. I'm actually going to have the life that I want because I co-created it.
Yeah. And Sophia, I love what you're talking about too, in the sense of how we show up in the world ultimately translates into what we have in the world. It isn't an absolute, because there are some amazing people and they don't care about the stuff and they don't have the stuff and whatever, whether it's a degree or an MCC, but the way that we show up in the world and that idea of being, it will manifest how you have relationships, how you have the resources to call on your besties, your coaching besties to do something, because you're showing up in a way that is that opens itself to that, like for instance, for collaboration. If I say I want to be a person in collaboration with people, but I don't ever show up in a collaborative way with people, it's going to impact the outcome of that availability for me. So I really appreciate you sharing that out loud, because I think it's so crucial. And especially when we're thinking about coaches creating businesses.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. What do you do? What do you typically do? Like, who are you being? Who I was being then is, I got to do this all by myself. Oh my gosh, I got to figure out this marketing. I got to figure out, is it LLC, sole proprietorship? What is it? What is, like, even though I got a lot of that support inside of the coach training program, once I crossed that threshold, I did what a lot of coaches do. Hunker down, close the doors, close the windows, and think that I have to figure this all out by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when we do that? Get overwhelmed, and then I put it down.
Yeah. I hear a lot of coaches say also, you know, like I'm scared to put myself out there like I would need to, whether it's on social media or just writing an article on LinkedIn. I'm like, that's a concern. And I think in some ways, if we have like other people, then it's not just me reading what I wrote and then throwing it into the world. I gotta like checks and balances. Like, listen, I have no idea what that just said, like what that means. Like that is nonsense. And I can go, oh, reel it back, get into Grammarly, rethink it, you know, yeah, like throttle back, reel it in. But I mean, but I really think that being of collaboration, that being of curiosity, that being willing to get feedback, right? That all of those things invite what you're talking about, which is this co-creative partnership with all of your relationships and with your life.
And you know, the thing is, you know, one of the gifts, if you will, of the pandemic that I see is that in many ways, it forced us or called us forth to co-create. It's like, we are all in this bucket together. It called us forth to look over at your neighbor, like, oh, what's going on? No, are you okay? I'm okay. What are you using? Oh, mask. And all of this was really a call forth for co-creation. And, you know, as I do a lot of work with, I coach mainly C-suite executives, and, you know, them being stressed about the Great Resignation. And a lot of the stress has come from a culture of separate and alone. I got to figure this out for myself. I got to win. If I win, I mean, if you win, I don't win.
Right. There's no win-win. There's win-lose. Yeah.
Win-lose, 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 either or. And the pandemic really, I'll speak for myself, it forced me to co-create. It forced me to figure out something else. It forced me to think about things differently and look at things differently and take life a lot more seriously. So it's like, who do I need to be in order to navigate all of that?
Yeah.
I need to be somebody who's open to collaboration, open to co-creation, open to not knowing.
Yeah.
I'm a work in progress. I'm a work in progress there.
That's right. To hunker down and not know.
Imagine that. It's usually hunker down and do it by myself.
Yeah, grind and grind.
No later for that. I'm telling you, I've come a long way. Grinding was my middle name. But now the pendulum has swung to, wow, what can I create? Because I now relate to it as playing. Who can I play with today? Oh, I get to play with Lisa today, and we get to co-create something. that is so much more rewarding than the grinding and the stress that comes from being a separate and alone entrepreneur who happens to own a coaching school or coaching business.
Yeah.
It's just easy. And, you know, I'm so grateful. Our company, the International Coaching and Leadership Institute, hello, shout out to ICLI. That's what we did. Like, we are a testament of the power of co-creation. Three of us, three coaches got together. What do we want to create? What do we want to see more of or less of in the world? Let's do it. I mean, it literally was that easy.
Yeah. And, you know, it's sort of interesting too, like you talked about like the benefits of like kind of the upside of something like COVID happening is,
Yes.
and I'm just guessing here, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but there's also from that place of sort of isolation is this desire to connect with that then also opened up some things. So tell me a little bit about how you, I mean, because that's a big thing starting a coaching school.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and you do it during COVID of all things, right? Like
During the pandemic, what were we thinking? During the pandemic, but you know, I say it was easy. I mean, there are tough days, of course, but the co-creation of it was easy.
Mhm.
So I'm over here thinking like, oh, wow. And feeling that I'm being called to have a coach training school. I didn't really share that with people. Like, okay, that's just my own thing, right? Separate and alone. That's my own
That's
thing.
right, because that's how we do things around here.
That's how I do. That's my own thing, my own dream right here. And had done very well, you know, supporting other coach training schools and was happy in those coach training schools. And so I never really articulated that to people. And so in December 2020, as I do every year, I'm thinking about my New Year's resolutions. I'm thinking about my New Year's intentions. You know, I call it something different all the time. My mantra for 2021. And I'm by myself and it's really quiet. And I was doing some journaling and I said a prayer. You know, I said, you know, I believe my divine team, you keep nudging at me to do this. Well, why would I do this? Nothing's broken. I'm good. But the nudging is getting louder and louder. So I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna give this a go. I'm gonna give this a go. And I said, you know, I'll do this, but you gotta send me people that I love. I'm thinking that's a high bar, right? So certainly I'm not gonna get it. You gotta send me people that I love and that love me and that I trust and that trust me. That was December 2020. My coaching bestie and business partner, now in ICLI, Jessica Lightbourne, left me a voice note on January 19th of 2021, not even a month later, saying, Sophia, we need a coach training school right here in Bermuda. And I'm not doing it without you. And I just wrote back, let's go. She's like, wait, what?
Yeah. The universe brings it together. Yeah.
Brought it together. And then she had a colleague who I have completely fallen in love with, Lorraine Phillips, who was a former executive and also an executive coach. And we came together and we had the conversations that we're having right now, Lisa. What do we want to create? What do we want our legacy to be? What do we want more of or less of on this planet? What do we want to see? And that's how we got formed. Yeah. And we had our first cohort in November of 2021, and we're on cohort 3.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And very much of a congratulations on that. And I'm going to ask you a bit more about that in a bit, because I'm going to want to know what you're up to. But what are some, you know, I mean, we've talked about quite a few different things. What was it about coaching that you maybe didn't expect that coaching was about that you've, and I think we may have talked some about this, but is there something you haven't spoken to that was like an unexpected thing that showed up for you around coaching?
Well, there are a couple things. First of all, I was coming from being a director of training programs, you know, heavy in the L&D industry and responsible for providing enterprise-wide training. So I'd come from that background. where we do make recommendations. We do teach people. We do tell people this is a better idea than that idea. So coming from that mindset, if you will, and then being presented with this thing called coaching, I was like, wait, what do you mean I don't give suggestions? But the client is struggling. I gotta help them. I gotta help them. I'm a helping person. I gotta help them. So that was one of the biggest, like, whoa. It's not about me telling them what to do. And they're not broken.
Yeah.
They're not broken. So it's nothing to fix. Like, wait. I'm in the fixing business. Now you're telling me there's nothing to fix. Okay. All right. I'm going to play with that a bit. There's nothing to fix. And that they're naturally resourceful, as the ICF says. They have the answer. Like, so I'm like, okay, I'll board this train, but I'm still not convinced. So it's been a journey of really just playing on that playground of the unknown, the playground of trusting the client and trusting the process and trusting myself. That's been a journey.
And as you say that, how did your clients deal with it? Because I mean, clients also come to us with these expectations around mentorship and expectations of you solving and fixing and doing, right? Because there's that tension, right? Like, I really want to trust that you're whole, capable, resourceful, creative, and you want me to tell you what to do, which triggers my wanting to tell you what to do. How did you work with your clients on this shift?
I tell you, it has been a journey, because every time if a client came and started a question with, how do I get excited. Oh, they're asking me how to do something. I can tell, I can show my brilliance, right? And also, like, I have a very caregiving spirit. Like, oh, I want to help. I want to care for you. I want to, yes, I'll give you this. I'll offer this to you. So I tell you, in the beginning of my coaching journey, I say you get the clients that you need. And so you get the clients that you need to practice. And a lot of my clients actually related to me from a consulting standpoint. So they'd come to those coaching sessions expecting and asking, some of the C-suite executives actually demanding, that I tell them, that I give them the answers. And even that's co-creation, even that right there. So in the beginning of my coaching journey, was I actually co-creating? No, I wasn't really co-creating. I was suggesting, figuring it out. Like you said earlier, putting all the dots together, right? Crossing the T's, dotting the I's.
Yeah.
Did my clients get value from the work that they did with me? Of course. I have the social media proof, the testimonials, right, to prove it. And I'm grateful for that. And now when I look at my interaction with the clients that I have now, I don't feel like it's so much that my clients have changed. I've changed. Yeah. And now I'm wanting to co-create with them, and lean more towards them generating the answers and them generating what's best for them. So do I still get those? Absolutely. Like I said,
how do you handle that when you have somebody who's like, Sophia, I just need your opinion on XYZ.
I get asked probably by every client I have. And typically what I do is, I say the coach-client relationship, it is just that, it's a relationship that evolves. And so usually a few months into our engagement, they've come to learn me, I've come to learn them. And now what I hear a lot, I know what you're going to say. You're going to throw it back to me. You're going to pass it back to me. And that's what I do most times, is say, hey, Lisa, I'm happy to share with you what I see. Are you willing to start with what you see?
I love that. And I do that too, with my clients, where I'm like, I'm always curious when, especially with a C-suite or an executive who wants to ask somebody else to solve a problem for them. Like, it's always so interesting to me, since that is sort of their job. And like, what is in the way of you playing with it? And I think it's often, it's uncomfortable not to just know, right?
Uncomfortable. They're paid to know.
They're paid
They
to
get
know.
accolades and awards for knowing. They get
Yeah.
promoted for knowing.
Yeah. And then
Some of them,
to like kind of suss around and playing with this idea of
absolutely.
what if we don't know and what if we just play with ideas, and that I think is such a beautiful space in the coaching world where we can really, without a lot of, because you don't have to do any of the things, right? Like it's not like you've got to
Oh,
commit to forever. You're just like, let's just test ideas, right?
I'm telling you, Lisa, when I got that, and I'm still getting it, right? Because we're fluid, the learning is fluid. When I got that, I don't have to work so hard. I was working hard at the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
my coaching career. I mean, really hard, making sure I had all the templates
Well,
and
and you had the
putting in all
notes
the
going on.
research, right? Copious notes, not just any kind of notes, copious notes. I was working really hard. I didn't know that I was because it was just my normal.
Right.
But now, where I am now, when I look back, like, OMG, I was working hard because I was doing most of the work,
Yeah.
most of the work.
And when you think about your clients then, and I know they got benefit, but you think of your clients now, do you notice that your clients have more, the word that's showing up for me because it's a word I use a lot, but like that embodied knowledge, like they own it more? I mean, what has been your experience with your clients as a result of like tossing the bag back to them a little bit and be like, before we, like, I'll share what I've got, but let's first see what you've got. What do you notice is the outcome for them with the things that are important to them?
First of all, I noticed that they come up with much better ideas than I had.
Big aha. Whoa.
Better ideas than I had. Oh my God, I hadn't thought about that. They come up with better ideas and they feel better because they own it. Like I am a witness to the difference between somebody who was given something and they owned it. There's some ownership versus someone who owned it from the outset.
Yeah.
Owned it, created it, nourished it. And here's the great thing I tell, coaching students this all the time. You still get to take credit because you co-created that safe and sacred space for them to actually do that. So I
Yeah.
get to take some credit. And you're going to get lots of credit and testimonials and accolades, and they're going to talk about how great you are and how much they love coaching. You'll get all of that.
Yeah.
You'll get more of that by leaning back.
I love that. Yeah. And I think it's true because I mean, you'll actually have clients who feel empowered, going back to an earlier
Yes.
thing that you had said, which is that empowerment of agency and that, and I've always kind of thought it was interesting. One, a client, I used to teach anger management for the military, and I would have people
Oh,
who came
yes,
to
I
me and they'd be like,
remember.
Lisa, how long do I have to be in anger management? And I'd be like, I don't know how courageous you are. I don't know how much you want to change this. I don't know what you're capable of. Like, those are unknowns to me. So you may be able to do this in like a month, or it may take you 25 years. Like, it's up to you. I don't
Yeah,
know. And
yeah.
but I could never be able to just like cookie cutter, like this is the solution to your anger, because sometimes the anger is appropriate, sometimes the anger is inappropriate, sometimes it's effective, sometimes it's not effective. And it was that testing of things that they had to go through in order to discover what their own answers were for their experience that they were in. And that's what I'm really hearing you say with your coach clients and with your coach students is we have to trust that the ownership has to be with the client.
It has to be. And I say something, I promise, I don't make a lot of promises I can't keep, but I promise you, it feels so much better.
You don't have to remember so much.
You don't have to remember so much. And just to witness, I really believe, I'm always joking about, I'm addicted. I'm clear that I'm addicted to this work. What I'm addicted to is bearing witness to that, to them getting it. And then, oh my gosh, it's like the Wizard of Oz and Dorothy, like, What do you mean I had this with me all along? What? I had this all, you had it all along. You had it.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful that I got to go for the ride.
Yeah. You know, that's so funny. I haven't put it together with the Wizard of Oz until this moment. So thank you for that. You had it with you all along. So let me ask you this. What question have I not asked you that you think would be important for coaches to know about coaching or about what question have I not asked?
Well, first of all, you asked me great questions. And what keeps coming up, and I feel like it's kind of a running theme in our conversation today, is getting to the who. Getting to the who. You, them, the planet, everybody on the planet. Get to the who. Get to the person, the who, the soul, how they're showing up. That is a game changer.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
It's a game changer.
I love
It's
that.
a game changer. And I was like, I wish I had known that in the beginning of my career.
But you wouldn't have been ready for it, right?
No, I wouldn't have been able to hear it.
You know, and I see that with young coaches sometimes. You say that to them, and it is like bounces right off the top of their head. They're just not there yet. They have a journey to do to get to the place of the importance of the being and the importance of the who. And so, but I really appreciate that.
What I'm learning about that is, and this is like recent learning because I've just been exploring this a lot, that the level of your awareness around who, focusing on the who, that's it. It could be at different levels. At the associate certified coach level, it's like, oh, who? Noticing that somebody else is on the other side of the screen or on the other side of this table. So yeah, I'm in touch with the who, the person. And then as you move up and you get deeper and deeper into your learning and deeper into letting go, now what do you see and notice about the who, the person, the being? And then MCC. I said one time to one of my mentor coaches, like, do I get to talk at all? So do I get to talk at all? To be an MC? Do I get to talk at all? And I don't need to.
Yeah.
I don't need to. One of my calls that I submitted for my MCC, I spoke for 7 minutes in an hour-long call. 7 minutes.
Those were some very concise questions.
Concise questions. And, as I'm reflecting back, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting back as I support coaches as their mentor coach, and listening to that call, or actually 3 or 4 calls, but listening to those calls again, I'm like, oh, so the questions were very clear, but it was more than that. From the outset of that coaching session, I was like this. Ooh, who is she being? What's happening? Like, what did she say? I wonder what that means.
Yeah, because you can ask a very simple, concise question that leads the client into something like how do you want to have your schedule look versus how would you like your life to feel? Right? Very different questions. Very
different questions. And if you ask me the first way, I'm going to give you probably a checklist.
Yeah, like I'm going to need you to color code my calendar.
Bullet journaling, calendar. I'm going to give you a list. But the second way you ask makes me, whew, wow. Yeah. What do I want my life to be? Like, why are we talking about my whole life? I'm just talking about my calendar.
Yeah. And we're never talking just about your calendar.
We're never talking about your calendar.
Yeah, never.
Yeah. And I think about the times, in my coaching sessions, when I'm the coachee and I'm being coached, the times where the tears just flowed and like uncontrollably, the times where I was shocked by my shock and my awareness and these aha moments. Those are the times where I wasn't being told what to do.
I don't think we have enough conversation. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, and I ask people this, and so I'll just ask you also, how many people do you are slightly different, but so roll back about 10 years. How many people do you really have in your life who have zero attachment to your outcome and are willing to ask you open-ended, unbiased questions because they're not attached to you having a certain outcome? I mean, and for most of us, it's a big old goose egg, right?
Huge goose egg, because we have to get somewhere. And if it's not about us getting somewhere, we have to get the other person somewhere. There's somewhere to get to.
Yeah.
Somewhere to get to. And, to be fair to all of us, beings, in many, probably most cultures on this planet, we are applauded for knowing.
Yeah. Becoming mastery level at something, whether it's a woodworker or whether it's a painter or whether it's a, lawyer, it doesn't matter what your skill set is. Becoming masterful is a really huge deal for most human beings in most cultures.
It really is, and it's again, like I said at the top of this conversation, it's not that I'm suggesting you throw that out, you throw that knowing out. I'm just suggesting you don't lead with it.
Yeah, beautiful. And on that note, I just really would love to hear, what are you passionate about today? What are you working on?
I am forever passionate about mentor coaching. I had some quiet time last weekend and was asking myself again, what legacy do you want to leave? Because I do a lot of journaling around that question. And I can express the joy that I experience from mentoring coaches. It's just the best. That coupled with coach training, I would do it forever. It forever. Yeah. I love coaching, the one-on-one stuff too, but it's something about supporting coaches with actually experiencing this work on a deeper level and having businesses that work, that they love, that they jump out of bed for. That's my passion. That is my passion. And I'm grateful, for our company, ICLI, that, my business besties, Lorraine Phillips and Jessica Lightborn, we get to do it every day. We get to do it every day. We get to enjoy that coach training and seeing that those light bulbs go off. And then I get to go even deeper as a mentor coach, see other light bulbs going off. I tell you, I actually just got a text today from a mentee that said, I did it, Coach Sophia. I have my PCC. He's so excited. I'm sending all these emojis and I'm leaving voice texts. But that feeling, and I just sat in it for a moment. Yeah. I was like, it feels so good. It feels so good.
It's really paying it forward. I think it's really a way of paying it forward. So as I have just absolutely adored this conversation, as we come to a close here today, if you were writing your autobiography, Miss Sophia, what would the title be?
I was thinking about this and it changes, but what's coming up for me most loudly is that it would be called 7 Minutes.
Beautiful. And to find out more about those 7 minutes, please connect with her. There'll be links to everything on the webpage and everything. So I'm so grateful for you coming and playing on the studio today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach Lisa. I'm so grateful.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
It's so fun,
So I'm just going to stop now and just be like, hey, and so then what do you think, Sophia?
Oh, Lisa, absolutely. I think that, yes, that is a big part of our work. Yes, Lisa. Yes, Coach Lisa. Yes. Listen, well, I actually think blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Sophia.
You're a master if you can